Okay.
As children growing up and into our young adult stage in school, we are taught about religious freedom, that our beliefs are our own. Most of us have the right to say the pledge when we're in school, and most of us don't have the right, and we can choose not to say it if for our religious purposes. This isn't about a pledge or if your beliefs are wrong, because it's about Americans not practicing what we preach. This is about the mosque being built 2 New York blocks away from Ground Zero. It's drawing in thousands of rallyists that are either protesting for it or against it. There are opponents carrying signs connecting all Islam to terrorism, and those for it are carrying signs saying say no to racist fear. According to park51.org, the center is a 13-story building that will be a community center, cultural and interfaith spiritual center, along with an area for Muslim prayers on Fridays and a monument to honor all 9/11 that were lost. It's important that we understand the issue before us by seeing how the church and by seeing how the government's interference is violating our First Amendment rights and separation of state. Second, I will expose those rallying against it are not patriotic yet being racist and bigoted. Third, knowing the actions that you can take to protect you and those in New York's First Amendment rights. So every day as Americans, we want to live how we want to live. But if we don't stop and realize just how much the government has power to tricking us and to overturn some of our most founded beliefs. Yes, I'm aware that we are living in a post-9/11 war era, where most of our fears are stemmed from the tragedy that happened that day. And it's easier to be on one side or the other without giving much thought to it. Yet, as for the government, it is their duty to look beyond their feelings and reason with their mind to see what is just. The American Civil Liberties Union states that we have long regarded our country as a bastion of religious freedom. Since our colonial times, settlers came seeking refuge from religious persecution by enshrining the principles in their countries, and by enshrining the principles of religious liberty in the Bill of Rights, our founders hoped to protect our countrymen from religious torment. For example, the Jews, Quakers, and Huguenots were all minorities in their countries and came to the United States seeking that freedom just because their beliefs weren't right according to their former countries. In the article, Mistrust in the Mosque, published in the New York Times, it says that New York is one of our nation's most diverse states, and we pride ourselves on the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, where we welcome all our people to the land to the freedom. And New York itself is open to all kinds of cultures. So who exactly is opposing Park 51? It's mainly Republican parties and some church ministers are getting involved too. Republican Representative of New York, Peter King, stated that the mosque was particularly offensive because so many Muslim leaders failed to speak out against radical Islam. And over into the next month, Republicans added that it may be funded by radical Muslims who contributed or still contributed to those terrorists of 9/11. Yet their core belief is truly that all Muslim worshippers should just keep out. Alaska Governor Sarah Palin is the most ridiculous out of all the politicians, quoting off her Facebook. Peace-seeking Muslims try to understand that Ground Zero Mosque is unnecessary provocation. It stabs hearts. Yet, what I think she needs to realize, and what a lot of people need to realize, is that this mosque isn't being built on Ground Zero, and that these people trying to build it are not trying to incite or provoke any negative feelings. Lastly, Republicans are not hurting Muslims. Republicans are hurting Muslims more than they think. It is calling every Muslim a hate-filled radical terrorist, and I think that it's shameful. It's like accusing every Mexican of being illegal and every Caucasian of being part of the KKK. We just can't put labels on everyone. Rick Blasio, the leading candidate for New York governor, framed at the press conference that it's a threat to New York's personal safety and security. As he stood by Deborah Burlingame, the co-founder of 9/11 Families for a Safe and Strong America, who accused Imam Ralph, the main funder of this project, to plotting this to plotting this center to bring all Muslim to America and to create a dominant Muslim America. The funny thing about all this heated debate between politics is that there's no zoning law in New York that will provoke Park 51 from being built. It's completely legal. The one thing that I want people to realize is that all Muslims are not terrorists, but rallies and politicians are treating them like every one of them are. In a poll taken in the New York Times, 72% of people agreed that they had the right to build a house of worship wherever they pleased. Yet by changing the word house of worship to mosque, practically everyone was unaccepted. But that's what a mosque is. It's a house of worship. The saddest part of all these attacks is that Muslims have to face their homes to their vandalism, be verbally abused, and in the past August, a Caucasian man stepped inside a New York cab. He went to ask the cab driver about his faith, and when he told him he was Muslim, he brutally stabbed the driver's throat, face, and arm. His act was, of course, an extreme response to his raising fear created by the misleading information of the controversy of the mosque. CNN reported of how many others are taking actions to their own matters. A church in Gainesville, Florida, wanted to make a Quran burning day on the 9th anniversary of 9/11 just because they said Muslim and Islam is what's sending millions to hell, and that all Islam is the devil. These rallies opposing the mosque are senseless. It implies a global war on Islam, justifies double standards on minorities, and justifies bigotry. Yet as Americans, we have the right to speak against what's wrong. So lastly, my point, I want to tell you that just as Muslims are being attacked and denied their rights as American citizens, it should make you realize that you too can be taking your rights away at any moment. Editor of the New York Post, Anushay Hussain, writes about New York Mayor's Michael Bloomberg's speech that is not only powerful, how he tied his story of Jews and Catholics coming here, yet how he is an influential Jew in his society, yet is speaking out in defense of Muslims. It is people of high power such as Bloomberg that are setting the examples of how all Americans should react with passion for this debate. Because Bloomberg says that he is not one to choose one religion or the other, or which 5 boroughs he can deny a religion, it shows that many people can't also pick sides too, because he's such a person of high power that he's not going to be the one to decide, so neither should you. So in conclusion, we must let go of our association of Muslim to terrorism because it's wrong and it just does not make sense. Anthony D. Romero, Executive Director of the ACLU, says even in the wake of horrendous events of 9/11, we must remember that discrimination only chips away at the very values we are striving to refund. And as to politicians like Gingrich and Palin, they are who are leading the civilization to undermine our values as Americans, but it is up to us to uphold the things we have and don't realize. It's our rights to be whoever we want, wherever we want, whenever we choose to. Thank you.